Hello, good evening, good morning, good afternoon, wherever you are. I'm in Israel, by the way, so here it's probably night. Welcome to the first Flight Without Fear webinar. Actually, it's an intro. You cannot squeeze 6 hours and another personal meeting all in 1 hour, but we will do our best. But before we start, you can now try to look, maybe even look virtually at the skies and try to imagine there are approximately 1 million people in the air right now, traveling from one point to another. 1 million people now on their way. They are all flying safely. Most probably they will land safely very soon at their destinations. So let's move to the slide. So, as I told you, welcome. And we are just moving forward. So that's more or less the picture over the globe, more or less average picture of tens of thousands of aircraft in the air. You cannot see them all in this picture. There is a major overlapping. You can see it over Europe, over United States, and you want to take a look at this screen and find where you are now. And I see you guys. Okay, hi Erin and Tilly, Emma. Oh, I see you made it, Emma. Hi, Elena from Netherlands, New York. Okay, got it. New York, Netherlands, London. Okay, guys, very good. Oh, I see more. Francine. Hi, how are you? Petya, Vladimir. Okay, who's the Panther here? Down below, Chris. Okay, very good, Chris. Hi, Chris, how are you? Actually, I'm in this group, 2 months or something like that, and I feel like I know many of you personally, so it's a great privilege for me to know you people here. So welcome here, and let's move on. So we already tracked you. I don't see the Kiwis here. Hey, I did it late for them in order for them to wake up, but okay, maybe they will come again here. Christina, writing in Cyrillic letters. I'm sorry, I don't understand this. Okay, hi Bulgaria. Okay, found it. Maryland, Emmy. Hi Virginia. Stuttgart. Guten Abend. I was in Germany yesterday giving lessons to pilots in München-Gladbach. There is a simulator there. Okay, enough chatting and pontificating. So I asked you when registering to this webinar a question: how bad do you feel about flying? Are you feeling about flying? And this is the answer that you answered. Actually, the first 90 or 80 something that answered. This is what we have here, and we can see that more than 90% of you are really afraid of flying. Around 41 of you have experienced severe fear, which is, I don't have to tell you that, this is not good. It means that your quality of life is badly affected by fear of flying. And so let's continue and dive into making your quality of life a little bit better, actually much better. What our ambitious schedule for tonight, for today, for whatever, includes these items that you can read here. I will talk very briefly about myself in order for you to know where I'm coming from and what the hell I'm trying to tell you here. And then we will go over these items here. You can read it by yourselves. We can't get too deep into each item here. And but I have to tell you, there are people that after an hour like this have the critical mass, if you wish, needed to overcome their fear and to start a new momentum in this. And this is what I'm wishing for you all. And for those who will not have that, this will not be enough for them, I have something at the end, an addition. There is a full program, and I will introduce it in the end. My aim is for all of you is to just use this and go fly. There will be a questions and answers section at the end. Go ahead. You may go ahead right now and post anytime you want on this chat window any question that you have. I will try to answer as many as I can tonight, and what I will not be able to complete tonight, I will write down and post it as a question and answers in my website. So in a couple of days, you can expect to get the answers for any question that you post here. Yeah, let's continue. So I told you I'll give you some words about myself. I started flying in 1978 in the Israeli Air Force, which means that I'm flying 40 years approximately, which is a long time, you know that. And then approximately 14 years ago, I joined airlines and started to flying there. I flew 747s, the big jumbo jets, and in the last 3 years I'm flying 737s between Israel and Europe. I ran a few flight programs in Israel in Hebrew, and also I'm starting to do it in English in some places in the world, around the world. And I'm doing it in the last couple of years, but officially, if you wish, I'm doing it in the last during the last year, and that's myself. I'm married to Ifat. She's a belly dancer, by the way. She's not going to be here today. I have 5 daughters and 3 granddaughters, so I'm surrounded with women. I'm a lucky guy, I know that. I love to fly. I love very much to fly. I fly in my free time in small aircraft, or we will not talk about this today. So enough with myself, and let's continue. Any questions or comments here? Hi, Vanessa, she's from Canada. Mike, Charlotte, North Carolina, currently in Ukraine. Okay, so very close to Israel right now, so you can come here. Hi, Baltimore. Emma, what are the chances of missile from land being shot at an aircraft? Are there radars that could detect these? No. Sorry. If a missile is shot from the ground, most of the aircraft cannot protect themselves. By the way, there is a new system that is on some of the Israeli aircraft. It has some detection and blinding device to blind the hit-missing missiles. But generally, I'm sorry, this will not work. Aircraft are not defended against hostile missiles. However, not any small missile can shoot down an aircraft. Only a nation-owned missile system can reach the heights of these type of aircraft and shoot them. And fortunately, it doesn't happen too much. So that's it. Hi, Robert from Texas. Let's continue, and I remind you, if you have any other questions, just post them on the right side of the screen, and I will try to answer them. And this is how it should look to you right now. And this and the where do I point here? You don't see my pointer, do you? Never mind. On the right side of the screen, you can see the comments, and as I see that people are posting here, it exists. So let's continue. First of all, I would like to respect, sort of speaking, actually respect the fear of flight. I'm not getting here into the numbers of how many people are afraid of flying, but the numbers are huge. You guys are a part of a huge community in the world. The numbers are between 1/6 of the population to 1 in every 3 Americans is having a severe fear of flying, which is a huge number. Most of the people are not trying to confront this, and you are the ones that do try to do it, and therefore you have the best chances of winning this thing. So let's get familiar with this. This little creature on the right side, I call him Fluffy, you know why. He is a little devil that is cheating you and ruining your quality of life. Okay, so numbers. I can't start without numbers. The number of people that are traveling in aviation, and pause for a minute. When I'm saying airlines, aviation, flying in this session, I mean only flying in an airline, not flying in a little four-seater, not flying in a helicopter. All my speech today, everything that I'm saying today, refers to an organized airline. So it can be a Russian airline, it can be an Israeli airline, it can be an American one, it can be any airline that can communicate can connect people between internationally. So it's known internationally and has to obey all the rules. So the number of people that are using this type of transportation, is rising constantly. And you can see that in the last year, people, approximately 4 billion people flew, which means 11.1 million people every day flew safely. And they are predicting that in 2018, the number of people that will fly will rise even to 4.3 billion. Okay, that's an amazing number, by the way. It's half of the population of the world will fly in 2018. And that's a huge number. So let's try a guessing. Let's try to guess. What are the odds of you, if you are one of these 4-point-something billion, to be involved in an airplane accident? What are the chances? This is a number of 1 to how many? Do you have an estimate? Okay, something like that. What are the odds of being involved? Not to be killed, just to be involved in an accident in which the aircraft is severely damaged. Okay, not every scratch in the paint is an accident, but what are the odds of this? And try to think about a number. I will ask you another questions. If you are involved in such an accident already, what are the chances of surviving? What are your chances of not getting hurt if you were involved in such an accident? So Amy says that the odds of being involved in an airplane accident is 1 to 1,000. Okay, pretty low, but scary. And Amy said that if you are involved in such an accident, that the odds of surviving is 0. Okay, Emma says 1 million. Okay, any other guesses here? By the way, the way this webinar works is that there is a latency. There is 12 seconds between when I'm speaking and talking and moving till when you hear and see me. That doesn't have a problem. The only thing is that when you're writing on something that I said 12 seconds ago. It's not your problem anyway. Okay, so no survival, and Emma says, okay, I'll give you the answer because, it's not really a quiz. I'll give you a formal answer by the FAA, Federal Aviation Administration in United States. What are the odds of being involved in an airplane accident? And if involved, what are your chances to survive? Get ready. This is coming right now. So your chances of being involved in an accident, in any accident, is 1 to 11 million. Your chances of being hit by an asteroid right now or in the next 70 years is less than 1 to 11 million. But once you are involved, God forbid, no, but once you are involved in such an accident, you have 96% of surviving. Remember that famous landing on the Hudson? Everybody survived. Remember that crash in San Francisco when the Korean aircraft crashed, total loss, and all the passengers safely ran out of the aircraft. Badly enough, 2 of the passengers were hit by the safety, the trucks that are outside. But there are many accidents in which passengers are not hurt at all. And the chances are, as I told you, 96% of surviving. And you're right, Angie. Those are crazy numbers, but it's not me. It's the FAA that published them. And try to think, how many people do you think, how many passengers do you think, out of 4 billion and something that flew in 2017, how many passengers were killed last year? Ladies, gentlemen, how many passengers were killed last year in 2017 in the aviation passengers? Zero passengers were killed last year. Elaine, you're right also. Elena, you're right. So, guys, let's face it. There is nothing. 2017 was really 2018 started with 71 people killed, but 4-point-something billion people are flying, and 100, 200 people all over the world are getting killed. This is something, yeah, that's it, including runway. It's including everything in the airport, in the aircraft, let's say. We are dealing with something that is very, very safe. So these are the facts. I'm not putting aside, and I'm not overlooking the fear of flight that is a common phenomenon. But please, let's face the facts. So why are we still afraid of flying? And the fact is that the fear of flying leans on other fears that people. This is only a very short list of fears that or anxieties that people have, but this is something that we may want to know. This fear is, let's say, piggybacking on these other fears, and some of the people are afraid of what will happen when I panic, or they are afraid of what's going to happen. And in fact, they're going into a flight. If they're going to one of the safest thing that they can do. And what I'm arguing is that lack of knowledge is what grows this fear. You don't know what is that, what are these bumps, what's happening in the takeoff, what's happening, and that is what creating, and more than this, supporting and growing the fear of flying. And that's what I'm trying to do in my webinar today and in my programs, to give you, first of all, the facts in order for you all to be able to understand that you are actually trapped inside a vehicle. I'm going to talking about how we can continue with this. So I hope that you all saw this little clip. There is on this type of webinar, I cannot speak when yeah, there was no sound any. I cannot speak while that animation is running. Okay, guys, so I'll continue with this and say, in this type of vicious Vladimir, 1 in 1,000 chances. I'm sorry, the missions have no sound. All can see now that shows Fofi running up after you. Experience greater and more scary, and at that time you come to the next event. We're coming to the next event when we are more scared. We are trapped inside a vicious circle. And if there's one thing that I want you to take from this webinar today, is that you go to your next flight, or the next time that you are in a junction of deciding whether to fly or not, with the understanding that this is actually a very safe thing to do. And once you board on the flight and know it is safe to do, then your experience gets better. Now, and let's continue here. And I would like to suggest that we agree, first of all, that the fear of flying is not supported by facts. This is a story. This is a fairy tale. It is very vivid in your lives, but it is a story, because if you are afraid of something that is really dangerous, then it's very good. But if you're afraid of something that all the statistics says that the chances of being wounded by this are so rare, no, it exists, but is not really a dangerous thing. And while understandable, your fear of flying is not based on a real story. Face it, guys. And in other word, it's entirely in our heads, like any other anxieties in our life. Okay, let's see if anyone's drink some water. Hi, Emma, Alon. How about you pilot a plane for us? Okay, I am willing to take this challenge. My plane can carry approximately 1.9. Think about it. Hi, Mike. I hope that all the guys that were afraid of being disconnected are connected again. And let's continue. What is Telia? You're in. Okay, good. I would like to tell you about what is the leading concept of airline aviation. And and I warn you, it's going to sound to you like very trivial thing, but bear with me and I will explain to you why it's not trivial. Okay? And again, how did it happen that there are so many people in the air and there are so few, up to zero at the time, casualties? And how did it happen? It didn't happen by mistake or like this. The leading concept of aviation is, first of all and overall, safety. Okay? You say, big deal. The leading concept of my life is safety also, and I'm trying not to get hit by anything. But then the implementation of defining this as the leading concept is that in aviation, again, I remind you, I'm talking only about airline aviation, leave no single point of failure. That's interesting, because in our lives, we don't really use this concept, do we? For example, we are willing to go by a car with one driver, yes? And in 100 miles per hour or 80 miles per hour, if this guy faints or sneezes or get a heart attack, then there is an accident or a very serious situation. These type of things do not exist at all in airline aviation, not at all. And if I'm right, and I can prove it to you, then you cannot think, I believe, and you're welcome to challenge me here, of any other environment in your lives in which safety is not only the first thing that people are thinking, that safety is something that leads this industry or environment. For example, when you are walking in the street, okay, it is very safe. You can get hit by something falling from the 10th floor. You can get hit by a scooter that is gone. These things cannot happen in flight, in this type of flight. Again, putting it aside, a hostile event that was meant to hit you, we will not go into security in this session today. We don't have enough time for all these aspects. But again, just to remind you, the events in which terror attacks shot down an aircraft are very rare. And if you look at what happened to the world since 9/11, then you can understand how it works today. So my point here, and I will go into a little bit more details very soon about it, is that there is no other area in our lives in which safety is the leading factor. And that's why all these results show that this is so safe to fly. And I'm going to talk briefly about the 4 components of the airline aviation, and to explain to you how this concept is actually implemented. But before that, I see that people here are writing things, and I like to read what you guys are doing. Israel is 12 hours from here, Tilly. 12 hours of flying. It's very safe. Nothing can happen to you while you are flying. Erin, doesn't safety depends on humans, and humans make mistakes? Right, Erin. I will go into it in the next slide or like this. Christina, Erin, we should think that actually there is nothing 100% secure in this life. Even staying at home, this helps me. Yes, this is right. So let's say that staying at home, if you build your home very, very strongly, and if you're not touching the electricity with your bare hands, and if you're okay, there are things at home also. In aviation, and I will try to do it very, very in the next minute, explain to you how it works. And it works in a different concept than anything else in your lives. Yeah, Mike, to Ukraine, I found it became more acceptable to light turbulence because I was experiencing knowledge is power, Mike. You're right. When it was smooth, it was more. I was more because I was never sure when it was coming. Yeah, that's right. I know that sounds really crazy. Sorry, Mike. If being afraid of flight is not based on facts, so this is all in our heads. So nothing is crazy. This is totally human to be afraid of things. By the way, to be afraid of things is a very natural good response. People that are brave are the ones that confront fear, not the ones that avoid fear. Okay, let's continue. By the way, I like this webinar. It's the first time in my life that I'm doing it. I'm very happy. I drive it, Vladimir. I drive 24 hours to go to Macedonia from London. Vladimir, this is so dangerous to drive 24 hours. Look at the statistics. Let's continue. So, we talked about humans. So, the pilot, the first component of aviation. And unfortunately, since the beginning of aviation, this is the only component that was not really upgraded and not redesigned. We are the same humans, like the Wright brothers that flew the first aircraft in 19-something. The first lesson is always the hardest. Yes, Elaine. I shouldn't look at the comments. You distract me, guys. Okay, sorry. I'll continue like this. So the pilots are the weakest link, if you wish, and also maybe the strongest link. But from unofficial numbers, yes, the main cause for the accidents are pilots. The cause of the accidents are pilots. There are not so many accidents, but if you are trying to analyze them, most of them are because of the pilots. And from the rest, most, let's say that the problem was technical, mechanical, or environmental. Pilots were the factor that influenced if it became a fatal accident or some other thing. So pilots are the most important component on this puzzle here. And this is the most demanding job that I know. Okay, so let me tell you, what does it mean to be a pilot? So let's put aside that in order to start to be a pilot, you have to show that you have such and such piloting hours. Okay, this is like, let's say, being a physician, doctor. And the training process is very long. Okay, for engineers, it's also very long. But once you become a pilot, life is good. Yes? Yes, life is good. But every 6 months, your license expires. Did you know that? Every 6 months, I have to prove again. Every pilot in the world with numerous situations. In other words, every 6 months, I'm going to a simulator, and I'm doing 2 days, each day a 4-hour session in which I have to face many malfunctions in systems and other things, all sorts of weather, and the combination between bad weather and a malfunction, and a combination between malfunctions that couldn't come together, but I have to face them. Also, I have to do it. It's 8 hours of really hard work. And after these 8 hours, an examiner that is nominated by the government has to sign that I can continue flying aircraft in the airline every 6 months. Now you tell me, do you know of other profession that every 6 months his license expires and he has to go over this series of things, of trainings and checks in order to continue working? And this is something very strong. Now, this is not only that. Every year, I have to take in my plane on the flight deck an examiner that will see how I conduct a regular flight without all these abnormalities. Every year, I have to go through tests, written tests. Last year, it was approximately 13 written tests on different issues and things. I had to pass that. So every year I'm all the time under control, under screening, under checking. And if I fail, I have to explain. Now, this is not only this. Let's say I passed it all. I'm driving in the aircraft, and the aircraft is telling the company what I'm doing. So if I'm overspeeding or underspeeding, or if I'm landing when I shouldn't have because the conditions were not the best, even if everybody is happy, no go. My license is being taken, and I have to explain why I did these things. Nothing stays between us in the cockpit. No, it doesn't end there. So the pilots are the key to safety. And by the way, somebody wrote here that yes, pilots are human. Human make mistakes, and that's a very true statement. So first of all, everything is a part of a procedure, standard operational procedure. For example, I'm not allowed if I'm driving. No, the other pilot has to respond to the controller and tell him, okay, I understand El Al 316, climb altitude 8,000 feet. Okay, so he said that. I am, let's assume that I'm flying the aircraft right now, I am changing the numbers in the mode control panel, and I'm saying 6,000 feet, or what was the number, and the guy, my first officer, acknowledges, cross-checks, and then, and only then, I'm allowed to push the execute button in order to initiate this change. So everything is cross-checked between the pilot and the controller, and then the pilot and the other pilot. And then if we do a mistake, then the aircraft is broadcasting that we are climbing to this altitude, 10,000 feet, and the controller says, oh no, you're not going to climb 10,000 feet. The aircraft told us that in understanding my command. So everything is combined. And when we have more time, I will explain to you how this mess of aircraft never creates accidents in the air. The last one was in the 70s, I believe, or the 80s, something like that. And it's, again, not by mistake. It is very deliberate. And that will lead us to talking about the aircraft, because the aircraft is another piece of this puzzle, and this is designed with no single point of failure. Somebody asked, is there an answer to any contingency, to any failure? Yes, yes. Let's think of the most horrific thing, single problem. For example, an engine failure. So if the aircraft has only two engines and one engine fails, and let's do it in the point that is less convenient, which is the end of the takeoff run, when the aircraft is still on the ground, doesn't have enough runway in front of him to stop. At this point, the aircraft is designed, and we are trained to continue the takeoff with only one engine, clear any obstacle in the way, and land safely. And we're examined every 6 months in numerous situations like this. So every system in the aircraft is designed so that if it fails, the aircraft will not go into an unsafe situation. Again, not many systems in your lives are designed that way. Aircraft, by law, by regulations, by international treaties, are it. Ours, I believe. I will look at your comments very soon. All the supporting system, the air traffic control, for example, the controller sees many things. First of all, he sees where I'm flying, where I'm speed to do things, but not only this. My aircraft is broadcasting directly to the air traffic controller many things about what am I, what speed am I, what altitude, and what am I intending to do, because the aircraft knows what I dialed in my panels. And so the air traffic control is another layer in this safety net. There are many automated systems that I will not go into it, but I will tell you, the aircraft is talking to me. The aircraft tells me too low terrain. He can tell me pull up. He can tell me descend now, and I have to obey. By the way, there is a loudspeaker that says traffic, traffic. Okay, there is traffic around you, and you want to just be a little bit more aware. The aircraft talks to you. The airline in which a dispatcher that is licensed by the government messages in order to make me aware of things that I was not aware, maybe. And if I need something, I task this dispatcher to get back to me. So this is, you are sitting in your seat in the aircraft thinking, oh, I don't know if anybody knows what is happening here. Many people insist when you're on the flight deck, when you are, and actually when you're on in the cabin. And the last is the law. Everything is covered by laws and treaties and agreements. And if I'm violating a law in flight, I have to answer to questions from all the countries that are involved, my own country. And if I landed in a place where I should have aborted landing for some reason, I have to answer them also. Everything is covered by the law. It's not that Okay, we'll do whatever. No, no, this is a big no-no here. So the law is this very important part of it, and everything is covered with the International Civil Aviation Organization, ICAO, and the IATA, which is the organization of the airlines, and everything is interconnected with treaties that go back to the 1940 something, Chicago Treaty, I believe. So everything there is very covered and very regulated. Let's look at your questions and what the comments here before we continue to deal with the main frightening phenomena. Wow, a lot of things. I'm sorry I will not be able to read it all, but first, Emma asked how many backup systems. Okay, so that's, I believe I just answered this. You asked it before, so that's okay. It depends. For example, let me tell you that in my relatively simple aircraft, the Boeing 737, the number of electrical systems is 4. So in order to stay with no electricity on the aircraft, I have to have somebody go to the left engine with a big cutter and cut the electricity and go to the other wing, to the other engine with this big cutter and cut it again on the other side. And then I will start the little jet engine that I have in the tail cone, which is called the APU, and it will give me electricity. But this devil is going to the tail cone with this cutter and cutting it, so I'll have a battery that can support everything that I need for the next hour. So this guy is looking for the battery and going to destroy the battery. Guess what? 737 can fly without electricity at all. It's a little bit more difficult. Some of the instruments have their own backup battery. That's how backed everything is in aviation, and this is by law. And other aircraft that are a little bit more complex have more redundancy that I've just described to you. Petya is asking, Alon, have you ever had a situation during flight where you got slightly scared? Yes. Scared is not the right thing, but I don't know if you saw the movie Sally on the landing on the Hudson. I'm not sure if it's the right movie for you guys. No hard feelings. But there is a point when he goes out of the aircraft and he's reaching the beach, by the way, and they tell him, okay, let's go. And it's freezing cold. And he says, I want the count. I want the numbers. I want to know how many people you have counted out of the aircraft. And at every starting of the flight, I get a load sheet, a piece of paper that says how many people I have on board. And I'm writing this number to me. And this is a number that is very important. I'm responsible for these guys. And once I was in flight, and this is it's not going to be a dramatic story, but I was on a flight, and the flight attendants called me and told me, Alon, there is a smell of a smoke in the galley. And it was the galley near my cockpit, and I went out and I smelled it. It was something was burning. It was electric, something that maybe the isolation of an electrical wire was burned. And I declared emergency, and we landed within 12 minutes or 14 minutes in Athens, in Greece. Anybody here from Greece? And I was slightly scared. I'm not sure because the aircraft was not on fire, but I felt on my shoulder. This was 121 people. So it was not a full house, but I felt any number of this number on my shoulder. I hope it answers your question, Petya. And great webinar. Oh, thank you, Petya. Yes, Elaine, it does apply to all over the world. These are international treaties. Now, if you are flying in a small airline between a certain country that you're not really sure if it is a part of the world, then they may not comply with these rules. There is one hint that I can tell you how you can check it. See if this airline is operating regular flights to civilized countries. For example, if it flies to London, to Paris, to Stuttgart, to Tel Aviv, to New York. If it does, this airline flies to these places, then it has to be regulated and they have to comply with all the rules. If it is an airline that has only one aircraft, only one pilot, only one mechanic, and they are doing a line between two farms in a place you were never heard of, then they may not comply with these rules. When a plane lands and new passengers board, how thorough is the safety checks? Safety of the passengers, it depends on the places, and safe. This is security, by the way, we call it. And the safety checks are the same checks every flight. So we don't have, so safety talking about the safe operation of the aircraft, and security talking about terrorism. Controlled car, can they also make serious mistakes with altitude? Yes, every human can make mistakes, even the control tower. But then I have a system. First of all, I'm listening to what's happening. I have a system that shows me every aircraft around in relevant altitudes. And if I'm not looking very good, then there are automatic systems that alert the pilots that are involved. So everything is covered by layers of safety. But turbulence, I'm going to talk about turbulence. Don't worry, guys. Vanessa Shannon. Alon, why do you think 2018 has seen the accidents it is already? Russia, Iran, Bangladesh. I think that statistics work. And by the way, some of the accidents that happen and were published are of military aircraft. Military aircraft are operating according to a different set of rules. And I'm not talking about this. I flew in military aircraft many years. I have in half an hour talk about the difference between these. But every accident has its own chain of failures that led to an accident. There is no accident in the aviation that is being caused by a single failure. So I know something about the accident in Russia, and I think I have already translated the article that I wrote about it in my website. So you can go ahead and look at it. If I haven't, I will translate it from Hebrew. I wrote something about it. Angie, flying from Australia to London next month and worrying about flying over the water. Flying over the water, it's something that many people are afraid of, and I understand why. And this is, wow, guys, we're almost an hour here. let's try to stretch it or whatever. Aircraft does not fall from the sky. It has engines that are separate. They can maintain the aircraft in the air for as long as it has fuel, and it has fuel. By law, aircraft by default are planned and allowed to fly only within 1 hour of the nearest airport. However, that cannot be done, or if you want to connect with Australia or even with the United States. So there have another 2 sets of certificate. It's called extended diversion time operation, EDTO, and aircraft are specially licensed to fly 2 hours and 3 hours from the nearest airport. And I believe from Australia, they need an aircraft that is licensed for 3 hours from the nearest airport. And that's how they fly. This aircraft has to follow an augmented set of checks, and not every aircraft can be certified for that. They have to have enough backups. But again, you're flying. It's like a little city. You have enough fuel and air and engines and food and water. And if worst come to worst, the worst scenario is that you are 3 hours from an airport. By the way, I know I used to fly many times between Israel and United States, and we had to cross the Atlantic. The longest time between airports was 1.5 hours, maybe a little bit more than this. So I hope that answers. Let's continue. I can answer questions till morning. The main frightening things, okay, guys, I'm going to talk only about 3, and there are many more. Unfortunately, I will not be able to touch everything here. What scares you the most? Well, first of all, is the takeoff. First of all is the turbulence. I will get to that later. Takeoff is scary because many people don't know what to expect in takeoff. And as I told you, lack of knowledge is in most of the time something that very scary. And I want to show you a little clip. Again, it doesn't have sound, so don't panic. I will get back to you very soon, and I will talk about. So I hope that you are all back with me and you're hearing me. So the takeoff, as I told you, is a scary part that can frighten some of the people. First of all, I would like to give you some numbers, and knowing what to expect, that I think Chris wrote, is a very important part of it. The takeoff run on the runway in a normal aircraft, not the prop ones, takes between 40 to 50 seconds. So if you look at the watch when you're taking off, then it doesn't look to you like forever. It takes approximately 40 to 50, and in large aircraft it can be 55 seconds running on the runway. This is perfectly normal. Now, second thing is after takeoff, approximately a minute after the aircraft leaves the ground, remember that I told you that the aircraft can lose an engine can bear an engine failure at any stage. So that means that a twin engine aircraft has more than 2 times the power that it needs. So if it doesn't lose an engine, then after takeoff, it has to reduce the power. So expect to hear and to feel that the thrust is being reduced after takeoff. Don't panic. Remember that aircraft took off with this mighty power that it doesn't need. It takes all this power only in case of losing an engine, but the engines are very, very reliable. By the way, 40 years I'm flying, never had a problem with an engine. I'm not talking about losing an engine. Never had a problem with an engine. They are so reliable, so well built. So approximately after a minute after liftoff, expect to hear the engines going a little bit slower or less thrust, or you will sound, the sound will be less loud. So, and by the way, the second and maybe the first reason for doing it is for noise, in order not to create too much noise, because you don't need that much power. So after takeoff, you will feel the gear retracted, it can be like a click, and then a minute after takeoff approximately, you will hear the engines a little bit, the sound of the engine go down a little bit, and then the aircraft continues to climb, but in a more shallow angle. And then after another minute or so, the aircraft will start to accelerate, and you will even feel that the angle of climb is a little bit less shallow. Sometimes for air traffic control reasons, the controller tells the pilot to stop the climb for a couple of minutes or a minute or something like that to allow another traffic to cross. This is perfectly normal, but you will feel that the aircraft is leveling off 2 minutes after takeoff. This is perfectly normal. But from being pushed with tremendous thrust, the pilot will reduce thrust, because when you are not climbing, you are not going to accelerate with all these gas burning. So just expect to feel these stages of the takeoff, changes in the thrust and the noise, of course, that you are hearing. And by the way, some people even feel the illusion of deceleration, of even descent, because after being pushed very hard, if you are pushed less, you feel like, oh, we lost the engines. No, there is no, it's not happening. So that's the takeoff. Turbulence. Hey, guys, anybody here is afraid of turbulence? Yes, everybody. By the way, all the others are also. I can only, we were just way behind the time, so I'll tell you only the bottom line here. There is no single accident in aviation that was caused by turbulence. Turbulence means nothing to the aircraft, nothing. It's just not comfortable. For me in the cockpit, it's very uncomfortable because my coffee can spill. That's a problem. It can be uncomfortable, and if you're not buckled with your seatbelt, and the turbulence are more severe, then you can get hurt. But the aircraft does not have any problem with this. What you can see here on the screen is a map that we take every time that we leave when we are flying. I'm going to use the whiteboard option here just to test it on you. So what you can see here is the route that is planned, and these things that are like clouds are areas in which I can expect occasional things, like what I marked here is occasional CP cumulonimbus clouds, and I can expect, let's say, here over Ukraine or Romania, if I was to fly there, I could expect turbulence. This is the sign of turbulence, and I know more or less where I can expect them, but they are not really easy to be identified, to be found. So most of the times they are either unexpected or we get notification from other aircraft, and therefore we can alarm the passengers. Guys, it doesn't affect at all anything about the aircraft. The wings are a little bit shaky at this time. These are the how do you call it? The shock absorbers of the aircraft. They are absorbing part of the shaking, so the cabin remains less shaky. Nothing. It doesn't affect the flight safety at all. And the last factor, some people are afraid of landing. Nothing. If landing is the time when the aircraft is light, because it has already burned the fuel that it needed for the cruise. You are descending, so the gravity is with you. You don't have to climb and clear the obstacles. Landing is more or less something routine, not very difficult. Sometimes you may experience what we're calling missed approach or going around, when the aircraft suddenly climbs again. This is because we're not allowed to continue and land in any way. We have to be in a certain envelope, or let's say basket of airspeed and altitude and engine settings, in order to have the landing roll, the touching in the ground, in the best way possible. So landing, again, is a very easy part of it. Guys, we're approaching the last part of this webinar, when I will try to answer a little bit more questions. But before that, I would like to give you very focused, short tips or advice from me, and this is after only 1 hour. If we had more time, I would talk a little bit more about it, but I would like to tell you just a brief word of advice from me. First of all, fly. Don't get trapped in the no-fly zone. I'm not flying because I'm scared. So if somebody's talking with me about flying, then I'm terrified, petrified, whatever. No, fly. Do whatever it takes in order to fly. That's first thing. And remember that the fear of flight that is more or less controlling the lives of, let's say, 10% of the population, controlling the lives of 10% of the population, is an invention. It doesn't really exist. Flying in airlines is the most safe thing that you can do, really. So just remember that. The fear of flight still will be there, but remember, it's not a real thing. And the third tip, if I can tell you, is don't think of the flight itself. Think of what's behind the flight. What is the cause, the goal of the flight? Why are you flying? And try to connect it in your brains to, okay, I'm flying, but it's not, the flying. No, I'm flying to see this marvelous place, to meet these people that I'm longing to see for a long time. I'm flying to get promoted in my work. Connect the experience of going to fly, planning a flight, buying the ticket, with something that makes you feel good, something that makes you feel better. And before we are going to the question and answers section, which will be brief, I apologize, but it's only almost midnight here. I would like to ask you to fill a feedback form that I will send to you. Actually, if I make it right, it will appear on your screen when we finish the webinar. But it may arrive also in an email, whatever. It's very important for me to get feedback and to learn how to make it better in the next events. And I'll just tell you that this is a brief intro that may be sufficient to you guys, but if not, I'm going to make a set of webinars. Each one will take an hour and a half. We'll include a question and answer section. It will be highly dependent on my schedule as a pilot, and you know that sometimes my schedule messes up, but I will do my best. It will cost money. Sorry, but this thing costs money, but it's not going to cost you an arm and a leg, don't worry. And I will go there on the entire course that I run here in Israel. I'll do it in English this time, and we can get deep into understanding this environment. So in my website, you can see the URL here, alonperek.com. All the information will be there. Again, welcome to do it. I will continue, by the way, to be a part of this marvelous group and to do whatever I can do to help you guys. That's it. Good. I'm going to read your questions here. Try to give it, let's say, up to 10 minutes, and then we'll go. Okay, please explain turbulence. I think I explained whatever is needed, but there is some, Elia, there is a big explanation. There are 5 types of turbulence, causes for turbulence. I can explain it to you. It depends on where you fly, at what temperatures, etc. But I don't have the time for that. I just tell you, none of them have any effect on the aircraft itself. There is no accident in the history, let's say in the 50 years, last years of the history, that was caused by a turbulence. That's it. How common is severe turbulence? I never experienced severe turbulence. I'm flying every day. So that's how common it is. Yes, we have. Okay, I'll give you something about turbulence. You can see what's happening with the flight attendants. If they are working, then it is up to moderate. If they are not allowed to work and they have to sit, then that means it's a moderate and up. By the way, if this was an emergency, they were not allowed to sit, because if the aircraft declared an emergency, they would not sit. They would be very busy in preparing the cabin for the emergency landing. So if you are hearing the captain saying, cabin crew, please sit and fasten your seatbelts, that means one thing is sure, we're not in an emergency, okay? Safety is on their mind, yes. So what is on the plane to put out fires during flight? Okay, Erin, in flight we have special bottles of something that fire extinguishers that can be directed to extinguish fire in the engines. If you have noticed, the engines are below the wing a little bit backwards, so even if they catch fire, this fire will not get to the aircraft. But if there is a fire, then we pull this bottle and direct it to the engine. On the same time, this pulling of this lever cuts the fuel and the oil supply to this engine, so there is nothing that can continue burning. So if we're talking about engines, then once there is a fire in an engine, then it cannot continue. An engine is not made of paper and wood and whatever, and once you cut the fuel and the oil supply to it, then the fire will extinguish. There are in the cabin fire extinguishers all over the cabin, and the cabin crew is highly trained in fighting this fire, and it works, let's say. Oh my God, I already feel better. That's good, I think. So that was Angie, and if engine has a backup, wouldn't it theoretically be safer to fly on a 4-engine plane versus 2? Yes, theoretically, yes, Vanessa. However, again, keep in mind, the engines are so safe, so safe. I stayed in the air, I once calculated, approximately 3 years, if you pile up all the hours that I've been. I never had a serious failure, malfunction in there. I'm not to talk about losing an engine. No, never. So they are very safe. So yes, yeah, 4 engines, 6, 8, whatever, but you don't need that. It's so safe. That's it. I find takeoff and landing exciting. You're right. The middle part, when we are so high up, that scares me. But okay, I understand that. I respect that. It is not dangerous. The cruise part or any part. 60 seconds. Okay, guys. I'm sorry, but I'm going to fly tomorrow, and I will need to go to sleep at a certain time. I enjoyed meeting you all. You can visit my website, write me an email, write in the group, whatever you guys want. We'll keep in touch, and let's see how we continue with this. It's been a pleasure. I hope it was good for you also. That's it. So guys, thank you very much. Good night, good day, whatever you are. Be safe and fly. Bye-bye.